because unbeknownst to us, my wife was already pregnant. Sad face. She was a week late, so she took the test like you saw there. We didn't have background music, and I sang the first 2 verses at her, and we were happy. We called my parents, and they were overjoyed. We called her aunt and uncle, and the other aunt and uncle, and they were over the moon. It was too early to tell the gender, so because, you know, those early tests, they all just look like little gray tadpoles in a nothing. So my wife came up with a nickname, gender non-specific. She thought of the name Bean, like in the Bar Wars human beings, which is kind of what they are. He's a little fetus. And being an animator, I drew Bean. Hey, little guy or girl, muchacho. I stopped buying comics, which is a perfect analogy for being a grown-up. Saving money for a family instead of buying stories of super mutants punching other super mutants, even if one of those super mutants is Deadpool. I miss him. She started getting morning sickness, which, if anyone here has been pregnant, knows is bullshit. Because you were pregnant, I mean, you were not pregnant, you are pregnant, but you are nauseous all the time. All you can do is, all I did was I saw her nauseous, so I got my ailing ginger, a ginger ale, and just sat back and waited for the nausea to subside, because you know what happens when the nausea goes away? That's when the hunger comes. The hunger. An insatiable need that can only be filled with cookies and cheesecake and 2 patty cheeseburgers. My wife called it the chasm, as in, the chasm has opened, bring me the village's most chaste virgin, and roast the hunting party's largest boar on a spit. Callback number 1. At night, I'd read to her and Bean from storybooks, and I'd sing them a song, usually Morningtown Ride, a song my mom used to sing us when we were kids. It's a favorite. I know there's recordings of it out there, and I will never listen to them because I never want to hear another version besides the one that is in my memory. Love you, Mom. And I'd end every night with, Daddy loves you, Bean. And I'd kiss her belly. I also had an idea for a webcomic, Doodle Daddy, about a couple, a woman and her giant rabbit husband who discover they're pregnant. And I was going to take our experiences and put them into this Roger Rabbit universe. And it was going to be delightful. And I was going to bring all my friends in. I was going to turn you into a puppet, and I was going to make you stop motion. It was going to be great. Understandably, I put that aside for a while. Someday. At work, I had this coworker, Tim, nice, great guy. He and his wife, coincidentally at the same time, were pregnant. But he told people. I couldn't, first trimester. Those can be iffy, I'm told. But he just went out and told everybody, and I said, oh, congratulations, that's amazing, instead of saying, oh my God, so are we, oh my God, I can't wait, we're Pregger Bros, yeah! It's gonna be great, maybe they'll be friends, I can't wait, I'm gonna tell everybody, but I can't because I promised I wouldn't. But I was like, yeah, that's cool. Good job, man. P.S. Tim and his wife had a son. And it was one of those things where it looks exactly like him. Like, the baby picture looked like his face was photoshopped onto an existing baby picture. It is uncanny and weird. And that son is about 4 now. We started making changes. We stopped drinking at social gatherings. We quit soft cheeses. She went to the doctor, who put her on progesterone. Sometimes she'd start, I'm sitting down, you know it's getting real. She'd start hemorrhaging a little, and she'd start spotting, they say, that's normal. But they wanted to be sure, so they started putting her on more blood tests. Pardon me. A lot of blood tests. Too many blood tests. She said to me, "At this point, I think they just like poking me." And I withheld the urge to say, "I know the feeling." It was not the right time to be flirtatiously witty. And one day, she called me at work, and the blood test said that she wasn't pregnant anymore, that we'd lost our baby. Just a test that said, "The princess is in another castle, try again." I told my supervisor, Brandon, about it, and he let me have the day off, and then he let me give him a hug, and he let me take the next couple of days off too. I went home, and she cried, and I held her. We talked, and I held her. I told her about this fantasy I'd have, like when I knew we were pregnant and I'd be driving alone, I'd imagine our son or daughter, depending on which day it was, sitting next to me, all buckled in. And I'd have these fantasies of just driving and talking. And the child would say to me, "Daddy, Daddy, Mom says I can't be a superhero." And I'd say, "Well, of course not. You have to apprentice as a sidekick first." "If I apprentice, can I be a superhero then?" "If your grades are good enough. Because I had this dad thing figured out." Thank you, Bob Saget. No, fuck him. Thank you, Dave Coulier. Yeah. And so I told her that story, and then I started to cry. And so I'm sure we did what many people did in our situation. We went to see the A-Team movie. You know, Liam Neeson, all that. It's not the best flick. It has a lot of action sequences that mostly seem to depend on the ability for glass to shatter when shot. There were a lot of bullets and a lot of glass, but you know what the movie didn't have? Dead babies. Take that, Pixar's Up. Yeah, it's a good flick. I can't watch the first 8 minutes. Maybe next year. I held her, and she cried again, and then she did something I was afraid she would do, something I really hoped she wouldn't do. She apologized. She apologized for losing our baby. Something she had no hand in doing. Just because it happens sometimes. We were old snake eyes, that's the only reason. I saw a TED Talks earlier this week, coincidentally enough, that told me that 75% of women kind of blame themselves, even though they're doing everything right, and people who do everything wrong still bring their kids to term. And yet, somehow this blame is for themselves is still there. I got incredulous. I said, "Why are you apologizing? You didn't do anything wrong. You did everything right. It's nobody's fault." And she said to me, "I wanted to be pregnant for us on Father's Day because that Sunday, coincidentally enough, was Father's Day." God fucking damn it. I don't believe in God or Murphy's Law, but I do acknowledge that dramatic irony is a thing. We spent the next couple of days sitting around the apartment, binge watching Lost. If you've seen it, you know that the Korean couple, the Kwans, they have a baby on the island. It's magical smoke monster polar bearness makes the husband fertile, and they have a baby. Before it got too far into the pregnancy, I messaged a friend whom I known had seen it. "Tell me, the Kwans, their baby, it lives, right?" And he said, "Well, I don't want to spoil anything." Fuck you! Just tell me I don't care about dramatic irony or about showmanship. I don't want my wife's heart to break anymore. Just tell me, no, baby's fine, man. Baby's fine. I just had to verify that the lost baby wouldn't be a lost baby. By the way, Lost is a good show. It marathons very well. It'll really take you out of yourself. when you need it to. So that weekend of Father's Day, the Academy Theater, in their old location, these kind folks, Robert Drake especially, they were holding a little mini steampunk convention called Steamfest, and I was in a couple of shows. And I was in one that I had written. It was a puppet steampunk parody farce, unlike any puppet steampunk parody farce you've ever seen. It was called The Game Is Afoot.
Whoa! I say, this is most irregular.
Most curious indeed. Do you suppose that this might be the new light sugar?
I can think of no other explanation. Save that we are somehow haunted by some mischievous spirit.
Oh, God save the Queen! Oh, good Lord, Fire! Are you all right?
I think so. But now there's no doubt in my mind, dear Doctor. We are indeed beset by a restless spirit.
Well, show him what for. Take that, you invisible cur! I'll teach you to haunt our proud nation and steal our women!
Thank you. So here I was, on Father's Day, playing a miniature version of myself when I just learned I wouldn't be a father. Also, I was driving around with headless bodies in my car. Tiny headless bodies. I was at another show at that convention, and in that was there was a friend of mine, Ricky. She was one of the bridesmaids at our Pirate Ninja wedding. I went up to her, I said, "Oh, I have something to tell you after the show." And she said, "Are you?" And I said, "Almost." And she hugged me. That's probably the most 3 words I've ever said in my lifetime in an exchange. Also, another couple working on the show with us, in their 40s, they had a miscarriage like 10 years previous. And when they told me, I forgot all about my problems. Here were these other people who had gone through this horrible thing. I forgot that I had done it. It happened to me for a second. I was just so worried about them. And you feel kind of, and then when you hear about someone else anyway, it makes you feel a little selfish about dwelling on your own problems once you know someone else is in pain. It's not selfish, but as in this case too often, like the manliness to count and the self-blame, you can't help how you feel. We got through it, we moved on, we started trying again. That summer, we visited her family in Vermont. And while we were there, I sculpted a little effigy of Bean out of Sculpey. There it is. I couldn't get the glasses to work on the small scale, so eventually I just left them out. But the whole time I kept thinking of Anna Klumsky in the movie My Girl, throwing herself on the coffin of Macaulay Culkin, shouting, "He needs his glasses! He can't see without his glasses!" So, there's one thing I've learned as a professional artist, is that perfectionism is the enemy of accomplishment. So we put Bean in a little craft box, put his name on it, and we took a spade and we dug a little hole between the graves of her parents, and that's where we planted our little magic bean. But, good news, in August came around and we were trying again, and yep, we got the test back and we were Prego Supreme. Yeah, I don't expect you to cheer, you know where this is going. I didn't do a song and dance number that time, we were cautiously optimistic, but we decided to name this one Spark, after the spark of life, and animator drew it. We definitely weren't telling people outside of our family this time. I'm a coy sort, so I kept dropping hints of some good news at work. And one of my smartest coworker, Katie, while my other coworkers' backs were turned, asked me, to which I said, and we were cautiously happy again. I was buying 3 patty burgers and chaste virgins to feed the chasm. At night, I sang Morningtown Ride again, and I mixed it up with Candle on the Water because we'd just seen Pete's Dragon again. And you know that song, it's about hope, being that light that'll bring you to shore. Because of my wife's age and her past troubles, they were giving her more ultrasounds now. You probably don't know this, but in the first trimester, they don't do the ultrasounds you see on TV. The baby's not big enough to be visible in those, where they rub on the jelly and they put a wand over you. They do weird, invasive, all up in you with a wand ultrasounds. And I'm sorry I've been doing this gesture so often in this show. The doctor was concerned about the slow growth of Spark. So one week he said, all right, I need you to come back next week so I can do another ultrasound to make sure that the fetus is still growing. That weekend, there was another convention. By the way, if you're not a geek, let me tell you, there's a convention every goddamn weekend in this town. If you are a huge nerd and you live in the Atlanta area, you never have an excuse to either get bored or to put your Tomb Raider costume in storage. Mine is fabulous. So this convention comes up. I agreed to do a workshop ages ahead of time. And I was going to hang out. Maybe I was going to dress as Freakazoid. I don't know. Yeah. And so I'm about to go to the convention. And my wife stops me and says, I can't believe you're leaving me alone here to clean this place by myself. She doesn't sound like that, I've already said, but roll with me, this is comedy. I can't believe you're leaving me alone. And I said, what the fuck? What's this? Where'd this come from? Look at this place, it's a mess. You never cared before. And it went on like this for a while, and then I stepped away, and I'm like, why is she so pissed? And then I thought about it, like a TV detective. Okay, my wife's a woman. Maybe she's upset about something different from the thing she says she's upset about. She's worried about the ultrasound. Oh, it all makes sense. She's not angry at all. Oh, I was relieved, and I'll be honest, I was a little proud because achievement unlocked, I finally understood women. Thank you. Ladies, my apologies. It is true in that anecdotal evidence. I won't say it's a generalization. It's true, but it's true. We talked about it, and I was right. She was just nervous. So I told her, I agree to do this workshop. I'll do that, and I'll come home. I'll spend the whole weekend with you. We'll just distract each other. It'll be fine. But then I grew worried, too. I was driving around, and I had a mix CD I'd made in the car. At one point, the song Candle on the Water came on. This song about hope, and there was fire involved and spark. And I started singing along, which means I started crying too. Not so bad I couldn't operate a vehicle, of course. I started crying and I started singing along, and I was sending out all my hopes across town to my wife's belly and the little person inside of her, singing to Spark that we were going to paint that ray of hope around you, circling in the air, guiding you through the mixed metaphor of adversity to the safe shore, and everything would be fine. She went back for another all-up-in-you ultrasound. The fetus hadn't grown. Spark had miscarried, but hadn't passed. We'd have to have a DNC. A DNC is a dilation and curettage. It's where the doctor dilates you and then removes the fetal tissue that hasn't passed from you. On the surface, it resembles an abortion, which is why a lot of lawmakers who don't know how women work are opposed to it. So we had the procedure. I sat in the waiting room reading while my wife was put on twilight anesthesia, and they wheeled her away. And they removed our little lost hope from her uterine lining. Our candle on the water went out. Guess it's an upside. I can now cry on stage or on camera if I need to, if I sing Candle on the Water to myself a few times. I'd still rather have a kid, of course. I don't act much anyway. Silver linings are kind of a crock at times, but they help. Time moves on. We dealt with it. And we tried to forget about it like people do. Angry Father's Day. Father's Day. Father's Day has been rough for me, understandably. Coincidentally, the mere nature of what it is. The next Father's Day, 2011, if you're keeping track, the next Father's Day we thought, well, let's distract ourselves. What can we do that we couldn't do while we were pregnant? I said, hey, let's have wine and soft cheeses somewhere fancy. And she said, or we could go rock climbing. Rock climbing. Yes, there is a lovely idea. You can't climb rocks when you're pregnant if you're not an idiot. Let's go rock climbing. Let's go to Stone Summit, that big place down off of 85. Let's go there. So we went there. But we were a little too late for the class where they teach you how to rock climb. So we had to go to the beginners area. You know who loves the beginners area of Stone Summit on Father's Day? Fathers and children being extra happy together. Yay! So, yeah, you win some, lose some. Oh, happy thought, though. At that time, my dad was fighting a battle with throat cancer and winning. High five, man, would you? Boom! Yes, he took throat cancer down a couple pegs with the help of his beautiful ivory-haired woman with my face. He finally stopped smoking and drinking, for the most part, I know. And when we visited on Thanksgiving, he was delightful to be around. I could have whole conversations with him without him saying anything pointlessly critical. It was paradise. And then, next Father's Day, 2012, if you're keeping track, he fell ill. The doctors didn't have a specific reason for it. He basically had just hit his warranty. After 8 days intubated, he passed away. A couple days before Father's Day. If curses existed, I would think that Father's Day for me is cursed. But curses don't exist. They're just humans using our talent for pattern recognition to hurt ourselves. It's like Murphy's Law. Murphy's Law is just some pessimist asshole forgetting all the times bad things didn't happen to him, all the times he didn't get a flat tire or a ticket on his way to work. The world is, in general, a beautiful place because bad things aren't constantly happening, which means good things always have the ability to happen if you let them or make them happen. Just do something good for someone else, and you're fighting Murphy's Law. A lot of people give themselves a lot of grief for no reason because of some intangible flaw of character that foolish people call luck. But, you know, poetic irony, I acknowledge that's a thing. The next year, 2013, if you're keeping track, my wife was out of town, so I dealt with this pain alone by drawing things and writing poetry, like a saddened Shel Silverstein. I thought I'd stay up all night writing and illustrating this. The Craptabulous Saddadulous Day, or How the Sketch Stole Father's Day. Father's Day was here, and everyone was glad to celebrate the institution we all know as Dad. Well, they were if they remembered, or if they were told, or got Dad and Grad emails about gifts being sold, and so spread the joy for the paterfamilias. But the Sketch, who lived at Crumpet Side Apartments, didn't feel this. The Sketch hated Father's Day. If you knew him, you'd know. Why, this day always saddened him and angered him so. Well, I say always, but it was only started 3 years ago. You see, for years he and his wife had been so merry, very. Then along came the worst Father's Day since they'd married. For that Father's Day was the first time that they had miscarried. They held each other and cried and shared how they felt, watched a marathon of Lost, and together they dealt. But last year again, they had one tragedy more, and it happened on Father's Day, because irony's a whore. And the Father's Day after that, try to celebrate as they might, The sketch's father took ill, giving his mother a fright, and held on 8 days before going on to that good night. The sketch glowered around, his porcelain heart growing wooden, covering sadness with madness like we all know we shouldn't. Then he had an idea, a horrible idea. The sketch had a petty and larcenous fucker be crazy idea. He would go around stealing all the Father's Day swag and make sure everyone's Father's Day turned out a drag. He'd steal wallets and watches, Dollar Shave memberships, world's greatest dad mugs, and stylish Fitbits. Messenger bags and man purses, but no gifts could be better than those gaudy and bawdy Heathcliff Huxtable sweaters. Then he realized his plan didn't make any sense because breaking and entering a shoot-you-in-the-faceable offense. You're a mean one, Mr. Sketch. So it would go on like that, and I stopped writing it because it's too negative. This is not the way to deal with this sort of thing. So, but at one point, he was gonna be packing up, getting ready to steal everything, and then this little girl who would have been his daughter's age if they'd brought their first one to term was gonna run up and give him a hug for no reason at all. The little Cindy Lou Who of the story. And then his heart would turn back to porcelain, and he'd just go home and cry and eat a box of Nature's Own Fair Trade chocolate chip cookies. So instead of that, I'm sorry? So I thought about it some more. I figured, why don't I do something that's all about hope? Hope is my thing. So instead I wrote and illustrated this. Magic bean. We love you, little magic bean, the greatest legume ever seen. Please grow tall into our dreams, our little magic bean. We will plant you upon the perfect plot, a magical and fertile spot, and showered with all the love we've got, our beloved magic bean. Too good to be true, we could barely conceive of a magic bean. How could we believe something so precious that would never leave our trusted magic bean? Holy free holies, are you impressive? We can't help but be obsessive with a doting that seems excessive. Our exceptional magic bean. Such a pretty, precious little legume. We love you so much we can only assume you're so very snug in your little womb, our bedoted magic bean. You'll bloom quite soon, without a doubt, grow tall and elegant and stout. So break out and sprout, give the world a shout. Our precocious magic bean, our own little magic bean. Subtle, I know. And then I ate a whole box of Nature's Own chocolate chip cookies. Last year on Father's Day, though, I did something else. I've come a long way. I gathered some friends and we recorded an audiobook. I do those in my spare time. If you want to know how to do it, you can do it on your own. I'll help you out. So we gathered, we recorded, and actually this last week, that book went on sale. It's a story about these 4 guys on a stag weekend who leave England to go to Amsterdam until it's attacked by giant evil hamsters. It's called Adam Millard's Hamsterdamned. So stay distracted is what I'll say. So we recorded an audiobook, and I shared a box of Nature's Own chocolate chip cookies. Thank you for sharing one with me tonight.